Hey guys, Gerald Duran here with CanaGlobal, reporting to you from Los Angeles in the Batcave, sporting my COVID-19 haircut. Did it myself. I watched 4 or 5 YouTube videos. Oh, you should have seen it. If it looks bad now, you should have seen it before, because it was a disaster. But it came out okay for a do-it-yourself. I don't know what my barber's going to say once we're free and we're able to go out and do things as normal human beings. Sunday, I think it was Sunday, we put out an article called "Who Makes the Best Entrepreneurs?" And so I wanted to put together a video on that subject. And so we talked about the outperformer, and we all know an outperformer, and we can all be an outperformer. What is an outperformer? Well, an outperformer is like the Timex watch. The Timex watch, it can take a licking and keep on ticking. It's got like the 9 lives, a bunch of things happen. And this is so true if you're a serial entrepreneur or if you've been around for a while, a lot of stuff's going to happen. In my lifetime, the things that I can remember that were, I think, impacting were Y2K, 9/11, the Great Recession, and now this COVID-19, this big effect on our economy. So you have to be able to navigate season to season. You have to know when a season's ending and a new season is beginning. And to do that, you have to become a continuous learner. All outperformers are continuous learners. The one word that I would use to describe kind of a characteristic is, or maybe let's make it 2 words, they know how to adapt and reinvent. So when they go from one season to the next season, they always have to adapt and reinvent. See, the landscape's always changing. And usually with technology, and then by our journey, and then also when there's world events, things change. So when you're adapting and reinventing, you do it so you can remain relevant. That means you have to learn and do new things. So what we focus on is never the symptom, but the problem. So let's say in your company, to hit your life goals, your company, whatever it is, needs to do 5 million in annual revenue. But let's say you're right now and you're doing everything you know how to do, you're only doing 1.5 million. And I'm going to say, before this COVID-19 thing hit, okay, obviously right now a lot of things have stalled out. What's the difference between the person that could do the 5 million and they need to do the 5 million to reach their life goals, and the person that's only doing the 1.5 million? And it could be 2 different people, or it could be you. The difference is one knows how and the other one doesn't. The outperformer is a continuous learner that's willing to learn how to know how. And they don't get into excuses. They never blame their circumstances. They never blame their unfair circumstances. They never blame unfair people. They don't blame their clients. They don't blame their team. They don't blame the economy. They know that when you go from a season to another season, there's always an opportunity to reinvent and to accelerate. If you think about a lot of companies that have had to do that, really big company, Apple did it, Microsoft did it, IBM did it, Starbucks did it, Amazon did it. The one company, I don't know if you remember them, they were called Blockbuster. They didn't do it. They refused to reinvent and adapt to the changing, and they were so big and powerful. I don't know this for a fact because I wasn't on the inside, but from the outside, you had to wonder, boy, was it pride and ego that kept them from adapting and really embracing digital? So in the article, we talked about 4 types of people that we see. And mind you, when I go through these 4 types of people, this is like, the reason we bring this up isn't to judge or isn't to say, oh, look at you, you're not an outperformer. Not at all. But like a GPS, you have to know the starting point and the destination if you want the most efficient journey between point A and point B. And in the article, we talked about the children of Israel who wandered the desert for 40 years, and it should have been an 11-day hike. And most of them never made it to their promised land, just a few of them. So we, on our journeys, on our entrepreneurial journeys, we don't want to be wandering aimlessly because we're not continuous learners. So I'm going to go through a few of these. The first one that we talked about was the 5%ers, and we call them, these are the outperformers. And if they had a hashtag, it would be hashtag best life or hashtag 100x. Here's some of their characteristics. First, they value family. 2, they value priorities. They dream big, they set big goals, and they prepare big. They value time and budget it into activities that will produce a return. They've developed a giant perception of what's possible. They are continuous learners focused on their personal development. That's 5% of the population that operate like that. Now, maybe some of them that came natural, and maybe not. Maybe they had to learn to be that. You know, in my life, it didn't come natural. I had to learn to be an outperformer. And I have been an outperformer. And if I look at my lifetime, and I'm not saying it's perfect or anything like that, but I'll tell you, I've been a continuous learner. When something stops working, I go to God and say, Lord, I give you permission to change my thinking so I can change my doing so I can get different results. Now, the second group, and it's about 15% of the population, and we call them the eruptors. And then the reason we came up with that name is they have a dream, they're like a volcano getting ready to erupt. Or they're like somebody who's been pregnant with the dream for about 10 years. And I've never had a baby, I've never been pregnant, but for you ladies out there, I know my wife, when she got to be, with her last pregnancy, Brant, or Alec, I guess, about the time that he was about to be, come out, she was ready. It was like, let's get this baby out, out of the womb. So, let me tell you a little bit about them. They're positive, they're hardworking, and they're smart working. And they're really the world's doers. Here's some of their characteristics. They too have a high value for their family's well-being. They manage life pretty well. They sense a bigger purpose or dream erupting inside of them. They spend their life making life better for their household, but at the expense of their God-planted dreams. Now let me just say this. God-planted dreams are not this luxury item. This is what God planted inside you, and this is your purpose for your life. They're searching for a way to a better life, to finally go after their dreams, and they're ready to live their best life. A lot of you might be in that category. This is a good category where you're ready to become a continuous learner and learn the path, the method, and maybe get mentorship to go into your next season. Now, the third category, these ones aren't so good. We call it the 60%ers or the Wannabes. Here's the thing with them. Remember, I'm not judging, but if you're in this category, you'll recognize this. And all you have to have is a desire to change. But you have to be able to be honest with yourself and say, okay, this is my starting point. That's where I want to go. But if I don't understand my starting point or the truth of my starting point, the truth is what sets you free. Okay, here it is. They're lazy. Now, that doesn't mean they're not hard workers. They could be working 80 hours a week. But when it comes to pursuing God-planted dreams or being continuous learners, they're lazy. They're the world's reluctant participants. If they had a hashtag, it would be hashtag get by. Their characteristics: they live with regret. They maintain but rarely advance. They don't take risk. They live in fear. They have developed a small just get by mentality. They confuse reckless fantasy with designed dreams. When designed dreams comes with planning and preparation, a fantasy is just this idea of what you want to do, but perhaps you never put in the work to do it. They wing life when it comes to their dreams, unprepared for their future. A lot of them reject biblical, now it's this word biblical, prosperity, success, and abundance. I'm not talking about any other kind of prosperity except biblical prosperity. I'm not talking about any other kind of success except biblical success and biblical abundance. They have neglected their God-planted dreams inside them. And I want to put a big asterisk by this word neglected. They've neglected their God-planted dreams, almost like somebody who, this is going to be very harsh, but they've neglected like somebody neglects a child. How can I say that? Because God created you to be one thing, but perhaps you've rejected that. Enough, I better move on before I get in trouble here. They do the minimum to survive. They pretend to change, but they lack meaningful transformation. So a lot of these people are changing. Every time you see them, they're changing something. But there's never a transformation. They're the complainers and the criticizers. Okay, ouch, that's a tough one. The last one's even worse. It's the bottom 20. The bottom 20, these are the modern day lepers, the societal outcasts. They barely exist. They're really already dead inside with one foot in the grave. Life for them, for these people, it's a living hell. They're demon controlled. I didn't say possessed, I mean controlled. Okay? In other words, or influenced. Satan is getting the best of them. And without a divine miracle, they're void of any hope. They're a community of this is the community of the extremely mentally ill, drug addicted, permanently homeless, and unstable zombies. Now, wherever you find yourself, and it's important to look at this because over the years when I've either in hiring or in any of our accelerators or any of our events, when I interview people, they usually fall into one of these 4 categories. But here's the thing. God created each one of them with a plan and purpose to succeed. So they don't have to stay there. They just have to be honest about where they're at. That is so important. No matter where you are on this spectrum, if you're willing to adapt, you can get on the fast track from point A, God's fast track, which, by the way, it's not always so fast. I mean, it's not like when I think about the journey with God, it's not like, when I take a promise by faith and I take ownership of it, delivery or manifestation, one of the things I've learned with God, it's like most of the time, at least with me, he doesn't have Amazon Prime. I have to walk out someplace between my dream and my destiny. There's a process and I got to walk through it. But guys, we don't want to spend 40 years getting there. So I want to read to you a couple of scriptures, and you've heard me go through these scriptures many of times. And so, John 10:10, I know this by heart, I guess I don't have to find it. It says, the thief comes only to kill, steal, and destroy. It's referring to Satan. And Jesus is talking, he says, but I have come that you would have life and have it abundantly. Another scripture, so that was John 10:10. It's important to look at that scripture. Look at Jeremiah 29:11. And this is the scripture that says that God has a plan to prosper you. Earlier in that chapter, I think it's at the beginning, or maybe it's Jeremiah 1, maybe it's at the beginning of the book. I'd have to go look. But it says that God created this plan and purpose for your life before you ever came out of the womb. So, it's important to know that God has a plan for you. It's to prosper you. Jesus came that you would have life and have it abundantly. Well, a lot of people would look at these scriptures and say, you know, Gerald, I've had some lectures from some religious types that have said, you know, Gerald, in Jeremiah, he wasn't speaking to you. That was to somebody else. And I know that's true. That did not come as a shocker to me. But in 2 Timothy 3:16, it says, all scriptures is God-breathed, and God breathed, one of those, and is useful for teaching, rebuking, correcting, and training in righteousness, so that the servant of God, that's us, may be thoroughly equipped for every good work. So while these scriptures may not have been written to us, they are all written for us. So here's the big idea. If you want to become an outperformer, you have to become a continuous learner. To become a continuous learner, you have to be willing to learn how to get the know-how. That means we have to invite God in to change how we think, so we can change what we do, so we can change our results. It's important to look at where you are right now. Are you a 5%er, an outperformer? Are you a 15%er, an erupter? Are you part of the majority of America or the world, the 60%ers that are wannabes? Or are you part of the bottom 20? Now look at, I don't care where you are. When I meet people, and I've met with a lot of bottom 20 people that I've asked God to make radical changes in their life, and He has. So when I look at these different categories, trust me, I am not putting them down. I am not judging them. It's important, though, to know where you are. And I'll tell you, I've been through all those. I believe today I'm an outperformer. Am I perfect? No, but I'm a continuous learner. I'm humble, I'm grateful, and I'm confident. Who am I confident in? I am confident in God. Now I'll tell you, regardless of what's going on in your life, there's something, and I heard this today and I loved it. You know, when we go between seasons, there's also some fog in there sometimes. And one of the things that you can say to God is, God, I don't understand what you're doing, but I trust you. God, I don't understand what you're doing, but I trust you. So who makes the best entrepreneurs? It's just the person. It's the kingdom entrepreneur. To be a kingdom entrepreneur, you could be in any one of those four categories, but it's making the commitment to become a continuous learner, to embrace God's plan and purpose for your life. That is the key. Why is that so important? Because God does not make plans that fail. So guys, I hope that was helpful to you. I hope we're set free from our lockdown confines soon. And I miss you all, and I love you all, and we'll see you soon.